Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I am discussing a common topic which people struggle with understanding if they have low self-esteem. And I'm calling it With Friends Like Yourself, Who Needs Enemies? And what I mean by that is, are you treating yourself with even the self-compassion or the compassion rather, that you would treat a friend? Or when you mess something up, are you super hard on yourself? And when a friend would mess something up, you would say, oh, of course that would happen. I can totally get that. If you make a bad decision, do you think that you're a stupid person? But if a friend made a bad decision, you would say, oh, everybody makes bad decisions. Are you basically seeing yourself through shit-colored goggles, really? And you learned this at home, I'm sure. And how does this impact your ability to navigate the world and to make decisions when you have basically an enemy in your back pocket, which is yourself and all of your negative self-talk? And we will get into that as soon as I tell you to subscribe. I have over 220 other subscriber episodes that you get if you subscribe. And also I have my new passion project, Buy Me a Coffee posts, where I write one new post every single day. I have not written at that clip for a very long time. And I will have the link in every episode description. So if you want to join, that's only $5 a month, and you get access to all these new things that are coming out of my head. And one of my daughters said, why are you writing on this other platform when you have such a big platform? And I said, well, would you write differently in a note to a friend versus a presentation to the whole school? So yes, I do have a big platform, and lots of people, including a lot of trolls, follow all my content on social media and drpsychmom.com, where I still do have over 1,600 free written posts and this podcast, but it's just different doing it for subscribers, just like the subscriber episodes are different here. When you know that you're already writing to people who appreciate and agree with a lot of your perspective, it's more like writing to a friend, so you can relax a little bit. And that's what I want to do at this stage of the game. So anywho, follow me on Buy Me a Coffee. So are you your own enemy? Maybe not your worst enemy, because I'll tell you who that was. It was probably a parent. Because where do you think you learned this negative self-talk from? If a parent called you stupid and lazy and bad and, careless and thoughtless and all of these things, then you internalize that voice. And maybe you didn't. Maybe your parent was fine with you, but you saw the way your parent talked to themselves. And your parent was their own worst enemy. And every time they made a mistake, they went into depth about how stupid they were and how wrong they were and how bad they were and how much of a failure they were. And so you learned that even if your parent was nice to you or nice to other people, that you need to really judge yourself very harshly. And now some people say, but if I don't judge myself harshly, then I could mess up. And in fact, it is my negativity and my hypervigilance about how bad I am and how bad I could be that really is the motivator and has helped me, be successful, or at least not be as much of a failure as I would have been otherwise. And to that, I say that's bullshit, right? Because you would not want that for your child, and you would not want that for a friend. You wouldn't say that the best way for your child to be successful would be for you to constantly tell them that they're a failure. You probably wouldn't think that, and you certainly wouldn't think that for a friend. You would not say that the best way to motivate a friend would be to tell them what a piece of shit they are, so then they really work hard at not being a piece of shit. No, you would think that that would totally destroy them. And now there are some people that say, and these are more narcissistic people, and they say, but they do like to, motivate others by, including their kids, by saying that they're lazy and all these things because it's true and that does motivate them. They're not going to lie. Yeah, okay, maybe your kid really is lazy, but, they're going to hate you, If you keep calling them lazy, they're going to hate you, and they're going to probably be even lazier to spite you. So it is really never a good tactic to be unkind to yourself or anybody else. You don't have to be a Pollyanna. You don't have to be a fool or a naive person to just not be a super negative person. Most people understand that if you worked out with a personal trainer and they were always telling you that you were a disgusting slob and that you couldn't do anything right, you probably wouldn't work with them anymore. And when you yourself castigate yourself and talk down to yourself and condescend to yourself and tell yourself that you are worthless, you don't even like to hang out with yourself. What does this mean that you do? It means that you obsess probably about getting validation from others. You can't trust yourself. You can't sit there with yourself because you are mean. You are not a good friend to yourself. So then you obsess about getting validation from others. Ironically, you try to get the friendship that you can't give to yourself from other people. And it's not just friendship. You want basically you want adoration, you want validation, you want acceptance. And within the relationship, this often means that you become the preoccupied attachment partner. And you're hoping that your partner can give you the validation, the acceptance, and the warm bath of approval that you didn't get at home and that you definitely don't give to yourself. It really is true that if you love yourself, that you do not pursue bad relationships and you have higher standards within relationships, and you can actually tell if a relationship is good for you or bad for you. Because if you're not a good friend to yourself, you don't even care if a relationship is good or bad for you. You don't think that you even deserve much anyway. So you're glad with whoever you get. But if you start to see the frame and the lens and you understand that you learn this negative self-concept from growing up where people were harsh on themselves, harsh with you, harsh with each other, only saw the negative, then you could start to see that that isn't real and that you have been, in fact, seeing the worst in yourself in a way that you would not with a friend. You have been an enemy. You have been sabotaging yourself. This does not allow you to be a confident partner. This means that you pursue people who probably look down on you and you fetishize and you fantasize about getting.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This is Andrew Huberman, host of the Huberman Lab podcast. I'm excited to share that the performance eyewear company Roka and I have teamed up to create a pair of red lens glasses. These are meant to be worn in the evening after the sun goes down. They filter out short wavelength light that comes from screens and from LED lights, which are the two most common indoor lights nowadays. I want to emphasize that these are not traditional blue blockers. Yes, they filter out blue light, but they also filter out all the other wavelengths of light that can suppress your melatonin and other hormones, which can degrade your sleep. By wearing these glasses in the evening, I find it much easier to wind down at night, and it makes the transition into sleep greatly improved. If you would like to try these red lens wind down glasses, simply go to roka.com, that's ROKA.com, and enter the code Huberman to save 20% off your first order. Again, that's ROKA.com and enter the code Huberman at checkout.
Their unconditional love and approval one day, but if you were able to give that to yourself, if you were able to say, I'm a worthwhile person, I mess up sometimes, but I also do good things sometimes, just like everybody else. If you were able to say that, then you would have the internal self-confidence that would allow you to get into more healthy relationships where you actually can be loved. Remember, if you don't love yourself, then you are drawn to people who don't love you. That's true. If you're like kind of okay with yourself and kind of not, then maybe you could get into a relationship where somebody helps build you up a little bit. But if you really hate yourself, I have never yet seen that be able to end anywhere good in a relationship. Because if you don't even, if you really, really hate yourself, then you are not even going to be drawn to somebody who likes you. You will only be drawn to, as Groucho Marx said, you will only want to be part of a club that wouldn't have you for a member, or you would only want to be with a loved one that would not want to be with you. So these are the more fearful, avoidant, attachment style people, and I have a whole podcast on fearful avoidant. the one you get when your childhood is traumatic. And these people are drawn mostly to people who look down on them because that is what they're used to in their own head. That's what they were used to as a kid. That's the only thing that makes sense to them. So they get these partners that then confirm the way that they think about themselves. So you are your own worst enemy, but maybe not. Maybe it's your partner. It's usually a race to the bottom between those two. You look down on yourself. Your partner looks down on you. Both you and your partner agree that you're a piece of shit and that they are the better partner than you. And both of you are acting out your own childhood drama, obviously, and you're drawn probably to more self-involved and avoidant partners who agree that you're not that good. Later, after you heal, if you go to therapy and you kind of grow and mature, have kids, work on yourself, whatever, and you get out of a relationship where somebody looks down on you, then often you're drawn to people who respect you a lot more because you've learned to respect yourself. So if somebody doesn't like you, then you don't like them. You think, why is this person so down on me? I'm not that bad. Maybe you don't think that you're awesome, but you are kind of neutral. Like kind of the goal with after eating disorders, it's not necessarily body positivity, or after body image issues, it's body neutrality. Okay, I have a body just like everybody else. I shouldn't hate it. Why do I have to hate it for? It's just my body. So you're just a person. So that's like a good goal. If you can't imagine loving yourself and that feels far off, maybe get to where you're neutral about yourself. You're just a person like everybody else. You have flaws, you have strengths, you have certain personality profile like everybody does. Some people are going to like you, some people aren't going to like you, and that's the way it is. And when you can say, back when I thought that I was such a terrible person, that was coming from a childhood where that's what I learned. And then I was drawn to people who, agreed that I was a terrible person. But you know what? I'm not a terrible person. I'm just a person. I have good parts. I have parts I'm working on, and I'm just a person. So then you start to be drawn to people who also see your positives and your negatives. So we don't want anybody who just thinks you're only positive. That's crazy, and I have even a podcast about that, I think from a while ago, where I say don't marry the person who thinks that you're perfect, because that just means that you're on a pedestal and they have no maturity and ability to see downsides. If you are very, let's say, anxious. Let's say you have travel anxiety. Something I wrote about on my Buy Me a Coffee is people who are very rigid and anxious with travel anxiety. So, and your partner is like, oh, that's really cute that you have debilitating travel anxiety because you're perfect. No, that's wrong. That's not good. That's something that you want to work on, is any kind of debilitating anxiety. But you also wouldn't want a partner who says you are such a piece of garbage because you have travel anxiety and you're worthless and I'm the only one who could do anything in this family because you're so ineffectual. Right? So you'd want somebody who says, yeah, you have plenty of good traits. Your ability to travel is not one of them. And, hopefully you work on it so it's easier for our family. I also have stuff to work on and myself, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So the point is if you have a voice in your head that is your own enemy, that cuts you down, that at every time you do something says, yeah, of course you failed because you're a piece of garbage, you owe it to yourself to get into therapy and interrogate where that comes from. There's a million books that you could read. One of them is Toxic Parents. I mean, the Children of the Self-Absorbed, When You and Your Mother Can't Be Friends. I mean, the list goes on. Or Mean Mothers. You probably had a parent who treated you badly. And they probably had the same exact self-esteem issues that you have and treated themselves pretty badly too. And they were their own worst enemy too. But now you could be the one to break the cycle so that your children don't hear you harassing yourself and saying to yourself every time you mess up, oh my God, I'm such a piece of shit. Because then they will develop that voice in their head too. They will learn to be their own worst enemy. They will be drawn to people who feel the same about them as they do, which is look down on them. And the cycle will continue, but you have the ability to stop that cycle by being aware of it. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that this was an epiphany moment for somebody, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, guys.